on that note, I will take you to our next presenter, Mr. Ranganath Sadasiva. He also has come on a very urgent request from our end. I really thank him to be here. He's CTO of Hewlett Packard Enterprise, India, and he comes with a vast amount of experience, both as a researcher, as a C-level executive. And his presentation specifically on AI adoption in India. So over to you, and looking forward to hear.
Everyone alive? So this is almost an amalgamation of the many topics that we spoke of, and I'm trying to throw in a perspective of what's really happening from an AI footprint in India. I represent Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and that's an 86-year-old startup company, I would say. Most of what I do as leading the CDO function for Hewlett Packard Enterprise is to work with a lot of organizations in connecting the several dots that are there. And if you were to look at some of the use cases that was put forward earlier by Sunil, and later on how use cases can be really implemented. So there is, if you were to look at both of these presentations, you see that AI is a kind of a journey, right? And this is a journey which essentially will not stop, it's eternal. Unlike any other deployment like an SAP or anything like that, where the outcome is very, very clear. And he mentioned in one of his slides that it's an iterative process at all levels. So AI is a fact that is a great technology. It brings together several attributes of an organization together to take the organization to greater heights. So that's why it's so imperative that we will have to look at AI as a technology and adopt to it. If you're not going to use AI, I think we'll lose out in a very, very big way. People say it was like the invention of the steam engine, the invention of the internet, and there is the AI. So you just have to give wings to this technology, and it can deliver a lot of things that is beyond comprehension at this point of time. So let me also take you through as to what really happens in the AI domain from India as well. Yeah, firstly, if you were seeing the snippet that was coming in from ARC, you saw that they were mentioning about how the domain for handling AI data today is transforming in a very big way. I see two or three cycles today. If you were to look at age-old implementations of IT and IT infrastructures, it was like a mainframe that you had, and everyone started putting data into the mainframe. Then, cut 10 years later, people said, no, it needs to be client-server architecture, which meant that you distributed your data across clients and servers across the board. And about 10 to 12 years back, we all turned towards the cloud, and we said, it is going to be cloud. That's important. In a way, it was going back to the mainframe era. And then you're saying, no, it's not cloud, it's multiple clouds, it's industry cloud, it is hybrid cloud and stuff like that. So eventually we have done two cycles, a sine wave, I guess. So we're going back to what perhaps is a normalcy for me, if you were to look at it. We're talking of hybrid environments. We're talking of environments where you're going to leverage all sorts of available technologies across the board. So the other way of conversely looking at it is, wherever we do activity, wherever business needs IT to go, you need to provide your IT there. When you're saying hybrid, you're saying you're going to use a cloud environment, you're going to use an on-prem environment, you're going to use an edge environment today. And frankly, it's driven by a lot of what's happening on the industry shop floor today. 80-85% of the data that organizations process land first on an edge device, right? Connected device or anything like that. Most of the banking transactions today don't land into the server first. It's originated and lands perhaps on a mobile phone, right? So edge is creating that kind of data points. And if you're saying I can't actually handle that data and you have to come to a data center to do that, then you're failing your business in a very, very large way. So it's important for you to ensure that you're providing the resourcing that's needed, whether it is data, whether it is computing, whether it is connectivity, etc., all being available across the board. That leads to what I say as a hybrid environment. The other big imperative, as we have been speaking about, is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is the ability to derive a lot of insights from data that you have, right? And then take actions and insights. And these insights could be just presented, these insights could be automated, that insight we put into an agent and say do everything together. So various ways of looking at these insights. But most importantly, your data is also, you have to look at it across the time landscape as well. I keep saying data is like boiling water, it's like steam. If you don't capture that, it evaporates. An insight of saying something, some malware attack had happened, if it comes to you after 30 days, there's no point at all. You need to have it real time. And there is that imperative that adds to the dimensions of artificial intelligence in a very large way. It's not only getting insights, but getting insights then and there, right? He talked about the CLIN example, and you can't allow the CLIN to go down for 24 hours. You're going to have a major loss. That leads up to a recalibration in the way we look at data centers. I think somebody said about a decade back the data centers are dead. But if you were to look at today's example, you need to really reinvent data centers. People are taking data centers into the Arctics. They are taking it, putting it under the sea. They're wanting to put it in, the Deccan Plateau here, one there, one there. So the entire gamut of data centers are changing. Add to that, you all would have heard of GPUs, right? GPUs are the things that is driving a lot of capability for artificial intelligence, purely because it can handle what is called as structured, unstructured data in whichever file and format. So, if you're looking at GPUs, they are large, they are power consuming, they're costly. So you need to have an architecture that handles all of these needs effectively, right? You cannot have a data center that's going to consume a lot of power and it's not sustainable. That's another bigger imperative. So if you look at the trends in India today, all data centers are transforming. People who had their data centers, cloud service providers, everybody is really going through a change. That's an imperative that you're seeing. The second one I want to focus on is artificial intelligence itself, right? And several examples that you've seen through. Predictive AI, essentially predictive AI is what he was showing as an example, right? What can be done with things like that. You can go to generative AI. What is generative AI today? It generates content by itself. A large language model spurs and generative AI tool, right? And the context of SLMs that we heard of earlier also is very, very important. Do you need large language models for everything? Do you need a small language model? The quick example I give is, if you look at large language models, it's like learning the entire Oxford dictionary, right? Do you want to become a Shakespeare, or are you good enough with being Shekharappa? That's what it is, right? And SLM is as good, for me to converse with everyone and do a lot of activities. So that's the importance. While you need to know that the origins are coming out of a library like that, but it's important to know what you want and what you want to do. That's driven by use case, and that's got specificities in terms of industry, in terms of use cases and stuff like that. Very important to look at that. And the other thing is agentic AI. Agentic AI is something like a tour operator, right? If you say, I want to take a 5-day trip to Europe, somebody will work the agenda and come back to you. Agentic AI is something that does work by contacting certain other elements and then orchestrating a thing and coming back. I just give you a very simple example, but if you're about to orchestrate a tour like that and you have 4 people in the family, somebody will say, no, I don't want to go here, I want to go here, I want to spend 2 days there, 3 days there. So it's a complex activity, but you have the ability to orchestrate all of that towards an outcome. Outcome as quickly as possible is very important to note. Agentic AI enables you to get to that outcome, perhaps also has recommendations that enables you to go to business as quick as possible. The 80% of most of the use cases that you would have seen, another attribute is more in terms of being more efficient, right? Whatever, when I'm doing supply chain or I'm looking at a floor and figuring out what's happening and what's not happening, efficiencies will improve, and if you're using artificial intelligence, it will improve for sure. But it's time to look at using artificial intelligence for monetization. If you saved 80% on an output or an insight that you do, what can you do to ensure that the remaining of that efficiency that you gained is plowed back to get more money out of it? That's where AI projects will become very meaningful, and organizations are heading towards that. And then physical AI, which is integrations of he said cobots and all those things. That's happening in a very big way. As people, as audience here, we'll have to learn and transform ourselves to work with those machines, right? There's something called as future of work, where you have to figure out, how do I use a smart assistant? If you don't know how to use a smart assistant, you'll be dumb. So you will have to start getting used to working with machines, these cobots and stuff like that. But this is what it is. This is just tip of the iceberg. We are talking of AI capabilities that are immense. There is singularity, they call, which is the ability of having all humans here represented in a machine. Imagine that kind of thing. But ultimately, AI is a technology that decentralizes a lot of things, right? And decentralizes knowledge for you. And purely from an Indian context, I feel it's like the Gurukul, right? You ask the question and gives you the answer. For the first time, Indians have been asked to ask questions, right? If not, you were always told, like, I'm saying this to you, the professor told you, your mother told you, your father told me, your grandmother told. Everyone said. Nobody asked, you never asked a question to them. But in this case, you will learn to ask questions, and intelligent questions get good answers. That's the prompt engineering part of it. So quickly running on to the third fact thing, which is how to make, in the India context, there is this ability to understand AI as a strategy. Many of us understood AI as GPUs. Many of us understood AI as a model. Many of us understood AI as a use case. But AI is actually a strategy. It kind of goes beyond all of these things. It brings together several things. And so it is that way a journey. And to make that very important journey, we are saying you need to set up an AI factory, right? Like you have a manufacturing unit, you have to put data on one side and figure out outcome on the other sides. If you're not doing that, your competitors will do. And you have to do that in a way and fashion that you engage the knowledge assets that you have and you grow on that. How will you get competitiveness if you're using the same set of tools, right? You will have to have it's like vocabulary. The more vocabulary you have, the better articulate you are, right? That's for you to do. So it's not that you have a generalized stack and you're able to do that. That's where AI factories come into play. Today AI has a high failure rate. Despite all adoption things that we're talking, there's a big gap between POCs to production, right? People are not able to scale to that. Almost 7 or 8%, 8 out of 10 actually fail. So how do you ensure you're able to put that into a factory mode is the big debate. They are wanting to make that more measurable. Workflows are all done and described, which is all a templatized based approach. Speed of deployment, unified environment and stuff like that. In context of time, I'm running there, but AI factory is one thing that you need to register. Also, in terms of agentic AI, as I said, right, it is leading up to a lot of automation of processes across the board. I've taken an example of operations in an IT environment. How earlier it was just about detecting, predicting, and correlating. Moving up the chain, you have autonomous agents that can reason, adapt, and act. So it is scaling, and you see all of this in the context of time. It all happens very, very quickly. So this ensures that your organization is effectively using AI and also automating a lot of stuff there. My last slide here is in terms of how do you set up artificial intelligence, right? As I said, many of us believe AI is a CPU, GPU and stuff like that, but that's more like cement and mortar for whatever you want to build. So you have to decide what do you want to do with AI. Do you want to build an AI hospital, an AI factory, an AI home, or whatever it is? And then you have to decide, how many rooms you want there, where do I put my kitchen and stuff like that. Those are the core elements of artificial intelligence rather than the technology part that has kept us very happy and excited, right? So these elements would be like, how do you ensure privacy, security? Very important today in an organization. Security is the most important thing. Whatever attribute you take today, it has to have a secure prior to that. So that's where you need to look at it. How is it human-centric or human-focused? You can't take the human out of the picture, right? So how do you make your AI models human-centric is important. How do you make it inclusive? Inclusive of everything that's possible in your domain is very important. If not, you just exclude and thereby you lead up to bias and stuff like that. How can you make it robust and how can you make it responsible? One of the comments in the previous session said about, it is traceable data. That's kind of responsible AI. You know how to explain that, right? Somebody told you this, it's not Chinese whispers, you don't know where it came from. It has to be something that's traceable in a very large context. So that's the guiding principles for responsible AI today. Yeah, so in a nutshell, you know, if you were to look at artificial intelligence, India is moving very strongly. My conversations with customers in the last 12 to 18 months have been really very different. We started off with saying, you know, these are the use cases, tell me more about the use cases. But today we are talking of things that was mentioned earlier about, you know, where is the data? Do you have the right kind of data? Or how do you want to purpose your data? Do you want to put that into a data lake? You know, how much of the data points that you have is structured, enabling you to go into an AI project? What is the kind of resourcing that you would need to have? Do you have the skill sets within the organizations? How can you do all of those things? And from HPE, that the organization that I work on, you know, we kind of look at it holistically across the board. Whether you're trying to look at, choose the type of data models that are relevant to your organization that needs, because there are hundreds and hundreds of data models. What is the choice that you want to make? So we can help in those, train, develop, and you know, this has training, retraining all across the board. So it's not a one-day activity, it's a life cycle that you have to do. Building a global data plane, having the right kind of compute, and having it across the board. So ladies and gentlemen, you know, AI is an exciting technology. You just have to indulge in that. You know, there is no two ways about it. Don't hesitate. You just have to take the call. You know, I was telling one large organization was asking me about, tell me about the use cases. How will I use artificial intelligence and stuff like that? I said, you know, who are you? He said, I'm XYZ, the largest conglomerate here, etc., etc. I said, just for that you have to start investing in artificial intelligence, because it's the right time, and you know, it's still in its nascency as a technology. You know, there are a lot of governance and other things that are coming into play, but really, as the technology is poised for large growth, and we have to solve large human problems with AI, not distinguish between cat and mouse, right? You know, those are the things that is part of training, but the capability of AI is immense, and I'm very glad that you know, I'm at a time and age that we are able to dabble with this technology, and so are all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ranganath. That was a very thoughtful presentation that helped encompass a lot of things, a lot of thoughts we heard today. It was really